Yes, yes, yes. Richard Rios is coming to Europe, people. Richard Rios is not going to AS Roma, as many people have been reporting, but he is going to Lisbon, to Benfica. Here we go. Deal agreed right now with Palmeiras after green light on player side. Benfica director Rui Pedro Braz closed their agreement with the mission in Brazil. Price tag met, which is around 30 million euros, paid in 3 installments. Richard Rios is going to Benfica. I love this player. There's just something about Richard Rios when you see him play football, when you see him play Fujiball. It's a Colombian salsa dancer out there. So we're going to discuss about Richard Rios' path to get to this stage of making the move to Europe at the age of 25. How will he improve Benfica's midfield, and what can Benfica fans expect from the player? So let's break it down. Give your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and share with a friend because Colombian salsa is coming to Lisbon. So Richard Rios has had a very intriguing journey to get to this point of making the move to Europe at 25. He was a futsal player until the age of 20, being a professional, I think, futsal player at 16 years old. And then he did so well in the South American Championship for futsal. Flamengo, yes, Flamengo signed him to the men's team for football. Not for futsal, to football. And yes, he was doing well in the academies. He was apparently one of the bright spots at the age of 20 in the academy for Flamengo. Then he made a loan move to Mexico. And that's where his first sort of setback in his career happened. Then he suffered from a knee injury while in Mexico. Then he went back to Brazil. Then went to the Brazilian second division. And that's where he started to flourish a lot. And then another giant club in Brazil signed him up, Palmeiras. And since then, he's been flourishing every single game. Yes, some moments he's a little bit inconsistent with his performances, but I think everybody got drawn to the Richard Rios fandom at the Copa America. When he was playing at the Copa, because that was like the tournament where I really started seeing Richard Rios every single game. Because in Palmeiras, I was starting to hear about the player, but eyeballs were definitely on at that Copa America. And what he did in that Copa America was sensational. That game he had against Uruguay, where it was just such a physical battle between Colombia and Uruguay in the semifinal. But Richard Rios stood out every single game. And the partnership he had with James in the midfield, where he was just dancing on the ball, people. He is such an elegant player that his stardom was at the peak after the Copa America. And everybody was like, oh, look at this player for Palmeiras. Yes, in Palmeiras, again, it's been sort of inconsistent performances. The Copa Libertadores wasn't too impressed when they were going up against Botafogo last year. And again, we saw the Club World Cup, where everybody in the world saw Richard Rios and said, somebody sign him, please. Somebody in Europe or somebody, I don't know who else, maybe Saudi club, who knows, signed Richard Rios. He's had a very good time at Palmeiras. He's won the Brasileiro, but I think it's now time to make a move. It's time for Richard Rios to take that next step in his career. And the player, what is so good about Richard Rios? One, it's just you pay to watch Richard Rios. You pay to watch this player because he's so good on the ball. Loves a tackle, very physical sort of player, but also is elegant. He can drive with the ball, he can create the counterattacks, and that's where Benfica were really lacking last season. I'm going to talk about that later in this video. Richard Rios is a perfect midfielder, I think, in today's football, where you need somebody who's comfortable in possession, who's comfortable under pressure. Rios is that guy. I see it all the time for Colombia when it comes to the World Cup qualifiers. We saw it at the Club World Cup. We've seen it at the Copa America. Very comfortable under pressure, skillful, good passer. Yes, he doesn't get a lot of goals, so if you're expecting like a goal-scoring midfielder, Richard Rios is not that sort of player. But if you just need somebody to get from point A to point B in a very delightful way, Rios can definitely do that for any club around the world. One thing Rios needs to improve on is you don't get a lot of time on the ball. Yes, in the Brasileiro, it's also the same thing because a lot of the games are physical. But I feel like in Europe, you got to be a little bit quicker on your feet. Rios has to improve on that. But that's just small little details that can easily be fixed with coaching, and we'll see what he can do under Bruno Lage. But I think for Rios, he deserves this move. He deserved to go to a big club like a Benfica or going to an AS Roma. I think if Rios went to Manchester United, look, Rios to Man United would have been a very good fit, but it's just a cesspool right now, Manchester United. Go to an environment, yes, Benfica isn't the greatest environment right now, but I think going to a Benfica, you can definitely develop even more. Yes, 25, but he hasn't played a lot of professional football. Basically, in football years, Rios is like 20 to 21. He's 25, so this is his prime years. Go to Benfica and flourish. I think this is a perfect move. And now let's talk about how this is going to work for Benfica, because they signed Enzo Barrenechea from Aston Villa. I think that's a perfect player in that DM position, because you saw Benfica's midfield last year. it was lacking. Florentino trying to do his best. Kochko having beef with Bruno Lage. So getting a completely new midfield. Enzo Barrenechea and Richard Rios. Perfect business. For 42 million for those two players, did you see what Barrenechea was doing for Valencia last year? And Benfica got him for 12 million? 12 million. Yes, there's like a 30% sell-on clause or something like that. That is a steal from Benfica's point of view. And then getting Richard Rios for 30 million. I just don't understand from AS Roma's perspective. They signed another player from Lens. I haven't seen much of him, so I can't say. But why did AS Roma just say, okay, here's 30 million? You know Palmeiras, they're very stingy with their business. Endrick, to other players, Vitor Reis, they just want the money. So pay them the money. I think 30 million for a player like Richard Rios is a steal. I didn't understand that from AS Roma's perspective. I think they're going to miss out on this player. And now Benfica, they get the benefits of it. They have now two solid midfielders that can start. I still think they need a number 10 sort of creative midfielder, whether that's João Felix. I mean, okay, you can go with the honeymoon and say, oh yes, João Felix can rectify his career at Benfica. That experiment is done. It's the same thing as Renato Sanchez. Renato Sanchez returned to Benfica this season, and he was average towards bad for Benfica. So going to get a number 10 is vital for Benfica because then you have the perfect midfield. You have Enzo Barrenechea, also very comfortable in possession, much more of a destroyer sort of midfielder. I think that works perfectly. Richard Rios can drive with the ball, very comfortable under pressure, can unlock a low block with his passing and very skillful player. So that's, I think, a compliment to Enzo Barrenechea. They just need a number 10. But Richard Rios going to Benfica, I think is a 9 out of 10 signing. Yes, the fee could have been less because you're getting a direct transfer from Palmeiras to Benfica. And Benfica, you know, they've been spending some money recently because they've recuperated a lot of money. So selling on Kochko for, what was it, 25 million? I know he's on loan this season, but I think it's a mandatory buy, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. And then getting Richard Rios as a replacement, it's perfect business from Benfica. So Rios going to Benfica, it's just lovely. Because Benfica were just lacking that sort of creativeness. They lacked a player who was comfortable under possession. Kochko, I think he's a good player. So getting a Rios, drive with the ball. Very comfortable in the dribbling. And you can see it a lot in the highlights that Richard Rios, he just thrives when there's space. He thrives when he's able to take on a defender. I mean, his take on success rate is ridiculous. So that will help Benfica with the counterattacks. That's why they need a number 10 so that Rios and the number 10 can combine very well. But you can see what Benfica are trying to do. They're trying to completely rejuvenate the midfield because that's what was lacking last season. They got the striker Pavlidis. They still got Sheldrup. Maybe they need a right wing who we will see who they will try and sign. They need other players, but I think the one thing they had to sort out from last season was the midfield. I think they've already done that with two signings. It's just a joy to see Rios. You know, people want to be critical about football nowadays. It's dead. Where's the enjoyment? Where's the ballers? Where's the salsa? This guy's bringing it. The Colombian salsa dancer, Richard Rios, is bringing the sauce, bringing the Karol G, bringing everything you want from a footballer. The enjoyment. You pay the money to see Richard Rios. And now Benfica fans get to enjoy. I hope this transfer works out because lately with these South American transfers to Benfica, they haven't been working out. Prestiani maybe needs more time. The Argentine midfielder Rogelio, I cannot pronounce the name perfectly. Excuse me, people. He didn't work out. So some of these transfers haven't really worked out, even though if you look at the history between South American players and going to Benfica, most of the time it works out. I think Rios can definitely turn around, but these are transfers. We can talk about all the benefits of it. Oh, he's definitely going to work out. Sometimes it just doesn't. So we're going to have to see how Bruno Lage wants to use Enzo Barrenechea and Richard Rios together. But like I've already discussed in this video, they complement each other so well. And I'm just excited to see Rios hopefully play in the Champions League because Benfica are still in the qualifying rounds. Because Rios in the Champions League, money, cash, money, all day, every day. People will be like, damn, why did we not sign this midfielder? Why? We have seen Rios go up against the top midfielders around the world. The Caicedos go up against in the Club World Cup, Chelsea and other teams. In the Copa America, going up against Argentina, going up against Uruguay. In the World Cup qualifiers, going up against Caicedo with Ecuador. Like, Rios has been tested. So there's definitely not a lack of quality. But it's just about consistent play from Rios. That's what you just want to see. And yes, the Brasileiro is also a very difficult league. And it definitely showcased that over the Club World Cup. But the Champions League is still, I would say, the highest level possible in football. And that's not from an arrogant point of view. I think we can still all agree as neutrals. So Richard Rios going to the highest caliber of football in the world, the Champions League, That's what you want. That's where you want to see the ballers. And also for the Colombian national team, they've been making some smart moves, the players. Jon Arias going to Wolves, Jon Duran going to Fenerbahce, Richard Rios going to Benfica. They're not in the greatest state right now with Nestor Lorenzo, and maybe they can rectify it with a year to go to the World Cup, but having these players at the top level around the world, that's what you need if you're a Colombian. And I think Colombians are excited to see Richard Rios in Benfica and hopefully playing in the Champions League. Definitely fun times are ahead for Benfica fans with Richard Rios joining the club. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How would you rate this signing? Do you think it's a good business, overpaying for Richard Rios? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around there, and share with a friend this video. Remember to follow me on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, join the Discord. I've been talking a lot about Richard Rios on Twitter for the past year. So if you want to see more gems unlocked, remember to follow me on Twitter. Have a beautiful day. Stay safe in this crazy world. Till next time, adios.